My name is Adam Fay, and I attend the Lawnmowers Theatre Group in Gateshead. I'm a filmmaker, I'm an actor, and I've dabbled in, well, more than dabbled, I'm getting into animation. At the moment I've always been interested in that. And I started off filmmaking with a company called Beacon Films, who I was introduced to late 2015, and that was a focusing of all, it was a light bulb moment of all the things I'd been doing before. I was introduced to, well, I'd always acted, and I'd always sort of made up these, I always made up these little characters when I was a kid. But when I was in my early teen years, I started drama when I was at school. First of all, I was asked to be in a school play, and then I met a group called the Lawnmowers Theatre Company, and they had an after-school club there. And over the years, I sort of honed my acting skills through them. And then I got to use all those acting skills in the films that I made with Beacon Films as well. So that was very good. And I'm currently working on a film with the Lawnmowers Youth Theatre, because they had a play that they'd started writing in, I think it was early 2020, and then because I'd been a member of the Youth Theatre a few years before, and they knew that I was into filmmaking, and they wanted me to do a cameo role, and it involved a lot of special effects. And I made that for them, and it was going to be just inserted into the play. It was just going to be projected onto a screen on the stage. And the group were very moved by that. Obviously, we were all in our homes at the time, and we were sort of online every week, and we'd work on this story. And the group all saw this piece that I'd done. They were very moved by it. They were very excited by it. And over the next few weeks, there was a conversation between me and some of the staff there about possibly doing it as a film, the whole story as a film rather than as a play. And the group really liked that idea, and so I'm currently working on that with them. I've got most of the filming done, and we're moving into the post-production phase now. And I've also just started a filmmaking placement at the Great North Museum. Well, I'm passionate about so many things that I'm not sure where to begin really. I mean, I like the whole process of it really. I like taking the elements of this world to create elements in another, because one of the things I focus on is special effects, and I like the whole practical side of it. I like taking sort of handmade raw things from this world and sort of mixing them all together and creating these beautiful things that come from another world really. And I like acting, I like creating characters, I like sort of becoming these different people, these different beings. I've always loved that. I love writing, I love model making, I love taking sort of textures from the real world and using them for other things. I've always loved that. Well, I live in a village called High Spen, and that's quite far out on the countryside, so there's a lot of woodlands around there, and I walk there all the time. In fact, we shot some of the film with Lawnmowers Theatre in those woods, and it was just an amazing location. There's so many amazing locations there to work with. I get inspiration from that. I was raised outdoors, I've always been out there. I get inspiration from sort of textures and sort of patterns and feelings in the world, and I take them and I mix them together. I get inspired by so many things, and I like to use music in my creative process because that just takes me into this whole other world. I love the history of film. I love the different sort of ideas you can take from that. I love history and sort of all these other genres that you can just immerse yourself and feel, and I love all of those things. Well, I've always been very focused on certain things, and I think that's certainly influenced a lot of what I do. I've always been focused on. I've always done what I want to do exactly, and I've always done my own thing, and I've always had this ability to sort of focus and fixate on things, which has obviously helped a lot in terms of filmmaking and storytelling as well. I always like fleshing things out. I like when I write scripts, I always go through multiple drafts of it, and I'll leave it for a bit and I'll let it sort of churn away in my mind, so I can think of more detail to put in, so it's more fleshed out, it's more focused. And the attention to details help in filmmaking as well, because what I like to do is that when I do takes in filmmaking, I always like to do a few, so I've got variety, so that I can get the actors warmed up and into the characters, so that we can always get the best performance out of them as possible. And I do that with myself as well. And in terms of, well, post-production, I suppose that the attention to detail helps there, because I always know what I want, and that process is always amazing to go through. For example, back in October I made a film for a Halloween competition called The Unwelcome Visitor, and I moved away from the conventional filmmaking and I decided to make it a silent film. So there was no acting there, and I think I hyper-focused in a lot on the qualities of silent film. For example, the way the actors move, because there's no sound in there, so a lot of the acting is done with the body and the face. And I also fixated on the colours of silent film, because they used to use tinting. There's always a bit of grain on it, there's a little shake, there's like a vignettes that close and open on the characters, and I was able to recreate that quite well, I think. I've always made models. I mean, when I was a kid I used to make them out of clay mainly. And when I was a teenager I discovered sort of pure natural beeswax, because I just used to mess about with it when I was a kid, and it was just something I used to do, and I've turned it into a little sort of industry for myself really, and you can add colours to it and you can imprint sort of qualities on it, and I've worked with it for so many years and I've turned it into a sort of a little profession for myself really. And I'm amazed at the quality of what I'm making now, and it's been this sort of something that started when I was a teenager, and I'm now using it in professional filmmaking. Because in the film I'm making with youth theatre, there was a book that one of the main characters has, and it's got this sort of eye logo on it, and I cast that in wax, and then I made the original in wax, and then I cast it, and then I've translated that to clay, so it's turned into a sort of prop making thing really. I love my creative process, and I love that it's evolved. It's been a lifetime's work from when I was young, and I love my life and I love what I do. Do not be frightened, for it is I, Lord Richard, and I am the rightful ruler of Kirkstone Village. I don't have much time, but I'll try to explain as best I can. When Edward banished me into the forest, I tried to take refuge among the shadows of the trees, and to keep myself hidden from the savages. Night after night, I hid myself in the most horrible, dreadful places, fearful that every noise in the shadows, every rustle in the trees would mark their appearance. But the savages never came for me. And eventually, I realised there were no savages, and that my brother Edward is a liar. But little did I know of the terrible secrets he was keeping from me and from the people of Kirkstone. The light that you discovered from your bedroom window is my only means of appearance now. For I am no longer of this world. It was some time ago that my wanderings in this wilderness led me to the gateway you stand before. And when I stepped through, I entered another plane of existence, another world, and I gained an all-seeing knowledge. And when I became aware of your arrival in the village, I hoped that your curiosity would lead you out of Kirkstone and towards this light. And I saw you that night when you uncovered my brother's darkest secret, long hidden away, even from me. I finally knew that my father's death was not on my hands, but his. He switched the bottles and convinced me that I had poisoned my own father. Oh, the guilt and the shame was unbearable. And Edward convinced me that it was my fate to dwell alone in the forest with nothing but my sorrows, and to await my doom. I have watched Edward rule over the lands that are rightfully mine with an iron fist. My brother is a tyrant. I can see that now. He must be stopped at all costs. He has destroyed my father's legacy and rules only with fear. And let me tell you something about fear. You can either let it consume you and run, or you can face your fears and rise above them. It is too late for me now, for I am no longer of this world. But you can defeat him. You can put a stop to the despair and misery he has unleashed upon my lands. It is too late. I must go back. I am being drawn away. You must return to the village of Kirkstone and confront my brother. Remember, fear is just an illusion.